All right, welcome to this very Mexican unboxing. And it cost 91 pesos to have it delivered to the US. No, I never thought that this thing was going to make it because I thought the Mexican cartel was going to actually steal my package. All right, let's get this open in fast motion because I almost had to put a claim in because it was over a month. And I was like, what's taking over a month from Mexico to New York? Because Mexico is right next door to America. Huh. I like to see what they write on the declaration. He wrote decorative metal piece. But and in Spanish, pieza de catedral. Am I doing that right? I sucked at Spanish. I failed it. Decorative metal piece. Very smart, seller. Very smart. They would have definitely stole it if they knew it was silver. Oop, I'm giving it away. Oh, and he wrote the value was 30 doll hairs. I can assure you it was not 30 doll hairs. If he would have put 200 doll hairs, this would have gotten stolen by the cartel. Or is that 30 cents or 30 pesos? I don't know. Wait, is this herb? No, I can assure you I did not. Yeah, I did not order herb. Oh, that's odd. Okay, as long as it's not Mexican jumping beans, I'm happy. All right, fast forward. All right, so we're going to put a whole story together historically. We're going to try to figure out when this was made. I have an inkling when this was made, and I believe this was made in the 1700s, and I believe it's Spanish colonial silver. Now, the seller was from Mexico City. Mexico City gives us a hint. During the 1700s and the 1800s, and actually previous to the 1700s, we had the Spaniards who sort of took over Mexico forcibly. And the biggest money that they made was in the silver mines in Mexico. And so they transported back and forth on the Spanish galleon ships billions of dollars worth of silver. And if you think of the Atocha, that actually, I believe it was a ship that had like $400 million worth of silver on it. And it actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Sunk. That's right, sunk. It's sunk. And you can find these like reales, I believe that's what it's called. These silver Spanish coins washing up to this day on the shore from the 1700s. Now, when I saw this, I wanted it because I've never had anything this old in my collection. My guess, we're going to do research, by the way, that this is from the 1700s. If you hear that nasty fan above me right now, it's because it's like 90 degrees in New York. All right, so this should have been a double-faced relic. So on one side would have been like a painting, I believe. I could be wrong. This could have been blank like it is. And on the other side would contain a relic of a saint. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. And it looks like it says Santo Tomas. And I did some research because I'm like bored like that. I Google everything that I buy before it comes. And this particular font was very popular in the 1700s. Also, I was looking up what kind of paper they used in the 1700s. Oh, good, that fan just stopped. Let's zoom in. And they would have used some kind of rag or like fabric, cotton or hemp or some kind of like a rag. And I'm going to get my loop and check out what kind of paper this is. But we have Santo Thomas, which could be one of many different saints. It could be St. Thomas the Apostle. It could be also St. Thomas Aquinas. It could also be St. Thomas. It started with a V. We'll get into that in a moment. But this is actually a relic, a second-class relic. Now, a first class would be the body part of a saint. It could be a bone, a piece of hair, a tooth. It could be a nail, a fingernail. It could be the skin. But right here we have a second-class relic, which is something that the saint wore or touched or used during his lifetime. Whether it be a piece of clothing, a shoe, a sandal, a stocking, a hat, a Bible, a chalice, a pen, their book or journal. It could be something like that. That is a second class. Now we have some kind of actual, let's zoom in there. You can actually see that this is really like old. This piece of fabric is old, and actually the fabric surrounding it is very, very old. Let's try to get a look at that weave. Hold on. I'm going to place this down, and I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so this is truly, truly, truly a treasure to own. And the seller really didn't know very much about it, but he knew that it was silver. And but he did not know that, much about the history of Spanish colonial silver. Now, Spanish colonial silver is basically silver of the early Americas. And so this stuff is really highly collectible. And let's take a look at the construction. It almost looks like a pocket watch, which is quite interesting, the way it's constructed right there. Look, and you can see this is all hand done. This is completely, you can see like the way let's take a look at that. This is definitely hand done. Now, most Spanish silver from this time would probably not have been stamped with the purity level. So, I mean, I could look with a loop and look around for markings, but I probably won't find it unless it's hidden somewhere. And I'm going to try to take this apart. And I know this might be a stupid thing to do, but I'm going to try to take this apart, see if this comes off. So I can see if there's an actual stamp in there, sometimes made out of wax, that can authenticate this relic. Not all of them had wax seals on them, but I did manage to get this off. So hold on, let me put this on a tripod. Sometimes you'll even get lucky enough to find things hidden behind these things. And I found things hidden behind picture frames before, such as prisoner of war letters from World War II. So I'm going to gently see if, yeah, this is not, okay, All right, I don't think I can get the backing of this off. I don't want to pull it out, but we can clearly see this better now. Let's take a look at it. Really quite interesting. And I don't want to mess around, if you know what I mean. I'm sure if I pulled this out, there would be a wax seal on the back, stating that this is actually, it would be a Spanish wax seal from it wasn't the Vatican at the time, but from the authorities of the Holy Catholic, Roman Catholic Church. Without a doubt, this is rock crystal. So this is actually helping me to date this. This is really something from the 1700s. Now, there's loads, I don't know if you can see, loads of bubbles in this. I don't know, you're going to see my skin through this, but there's loads and loads and loads of bubbles. And so we got rock crystal, baby. So I'm not going to clean the silver. I want the patina on it, but I'm using lens cleaner. I'm going to just spray this because we want to clear the glass before we put this back on. And this is an alcohol-based thing that's not going to harm this. And it'll dry very quickly. And as I rub it clean, it's going to leave fibers from the paper towel. So we're going to blow it out with a can of air. And so we got this side done. And let me just flip it to the other side and do the other side. And you guys probably are bored. You probably hit the back button by now. But there we go. We're going to clean this until it's squeaky clean. And I'm going to blow out the stuff. Because definitely the fibers from this just got on here. And let me blow it out with a can of air. Let's go ahead and do that. If this can of air will only work. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to put this back on our relic. I mean, even though it's not a first class, this is something else. This is the genuine, real deal, boys and girls. And getting this back on will be a pain. I'll be right back. Okay, so our glass is really clean right now. We can actually see much better into the relic. Let me just, I have all my cleaning supplies over there, but it's hard to show you. I'm going to take you guys outside with it. And that is just absolutely amazing. Truly amazing. I don't know if we can get in there for you to see this better, but wow. Okay, so we have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Is it Thomas the Apostle? Is it St. Thomas Aquinas? Or is it St. Thomas of Villanova? Interesting. So we have the clues. Santo in Spanish means Saint. Tomas, with the tilde above the A. Tomas. And why would they have a piece of the cloak? Well, I think I've came up with the conclusion of who this saint was. I think it's St. Thomas or St. Thomas of Villanova. Why? He always wore the same exact habit his whole entire life. And he kept mending it and mending it and mending it. He was known as the father of the poor. He even gave away his straw mattress to get money for the poor. So this is who I think it is. Because why would we have a piece of brown cloak like this when he wore a piece of brown cloak and he never changed it and always wore the same one? Okay, so there was a painting by a famous artist by the name of Murillo. Thomas of Villanova heals the sick. And he always wore this brown cloak. He was Spanish. Aha! Now we have another clue. So here we go. He was born Tomas Garcia y Martinez in 1488 in Villanueva de los Infantes, Ciudad Real, Spain. Don't even laugh at me because I did not pronounce that correct, I can assure you. He died in 1555 in Valencia, Spain. He was beatified on October 17th in 1618, right around the time, not very far away from when that Spanish colonial silver piece was made. Canonized in 1658 by Pope Alexander the Seventh, and his feast is on September 22nd. So he was born in 1488, died in 1555, and I think that's who we have here. Now, here he regularly distributed food and provisions to the poor, as did his mother. And he actually, let's continue to go. He was known for his absent-mindedness and poor memory. He decided to join the Augustinian friars in Salamanca, and in 1518 was ordained as a priest. He became renowned for his eloquent and effective preaching in the churches of Salamanca. Thomas composed beautiful sermons, among which stands out the Sermon of the Love of God, one of the great examples of sacred oratory of the 16th century. Charles V., upon hearing him preach, exclaimed, "This Monsignor can move even the stones." And so basically, he went after the bishops because he actually didn't like what was going on in the church, and it earned him the title of a reformer. Some of his sermons attacked the cruelty of bullfighting. He also had a great devotion to the Virgin Mary, whose heart he compared to the burning bush of Moses that is never consumed. Okay, so here we go. Let's continue to go and find out our clues. Okay, so he was known for his great personal austerity. He sold the straw mattress on which he slept in order to give money to the poor, and wore the same habit, yes, the same habit he had received in the novitiate, mending it himself. Thomas was known as the father of the poor. He continued charitable efforts which were untiring, especially towards orphans, poor women without a dowry, and the sick. He possessed, however, an intelligent notion of charity, so that while he was very charitable, he sought to obtain definitive and structural solutions to the problem of poverty. For example, giving work to the poor, therefore making his charity bear fruit. Charity is not just giving, rather removing the need of those who receive charity and liberating them from it when possible, he wrote. He established boarding schools and high schools. He died in Valencia, Spain on September 8th in 1555 of angina of the heart at the age of 67. His remains are preserved at the cathedral there in Spain. And so he was canonized on November 1st, which is my wedding day, and All Saints Day, by the way, in 1658. And his legacy goes on with multiple different schools and churches and all sorts of things, even in the Philippines as well, which is another clue, because the Spain and Philippines, the Spanish were actually trying to conquer or take over the Philippines as well, which brought Catholic religion to the Philippines as well, as not only the Philippines, but to Mexico as well. And there's a Villanova College as well, named after him. Okay, my rusty old fan is above me right now, so I apologize. The second piece of the puzzle to solve this mystery. What kind of text was used in this right here? Caslon. Okay, so Caslon was actually invented. It was a type of typeface designed by William Caslon, 1692 to 1766. Okay, so another piece of the puzzle. All right, so we're going to look at the letters. So look at the letter, the capital letter T, which is, of course, right here. And let's look at on there. It's the same thing. All right, the next letter we're going to look at is lowercase a, which is right here. And look at the lowercase a on there. identical. Let's check out the lowercase m, which is right here, and the lowercase m here. It's the same font. So now we can date this and help us to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Okay, so we know Caslon type font was actually, all these YouTube notifications, sorry about that, was actually used in the Declaration of Independence. That's right. So we had this type of font in the Americas as well as England and Europe. And so as late as 1750s, 1776, this is actually how they had them in all different sizes, the letters, and they would strike it and sometimes use a special machine that they would press down and push it across. Sometimes the letters would pop out and so on and so forth. So it was very hard to even type something so little as on our relic. Okay, so there's a really cool article on relicarios, hidden jewels. And there's a lady that actually went down to Mexico to find all these pieces because they come from the Spanish that actually colonized, I hate using that word, colonized the area of Mexico. And so usually these would have been double-sided and they would be just painted on two sides. So on one side will be a painting of a saint or a holy figure, and on the other side would be a painting of a saint. Now mine is missing that on the back. So I'm guessing that it once held the painting and had a glass, a rock crystal piece or panel, and it must have broke. And then that's why we only have the thing on the other side, which is the relic. And so usually they did not even come with relics. So mine is really, really unusual. And you can see the many different ones that are painted very masterfully. So what's amazing is that this is Spanish colonial, like folk art, basically. It's really quite cool. So basically, collectively, the relicarios, sometimes called medallones, miniaturas, and camafeos, reveal a vast range of stories, the demands of obeisance to Spain's crown and cross under the searing eye of Inquisition. That's the word I was looking for, Inquisition, not colonialism, but you might want to beg to differ with me. Who cares? At this point, I'm not a historian. Okay, so the spread of artisanship among the colonists and indigenous peoples, the souvenir desires of the pilgrims to South America religious sites, and the Manila galleons, which are those ships, weighed with so much ivory, some intended for painstakingly carved pendants, that the ships could founder and even sink under the weight of them. Very interesting. Let's continue to read. And this lady is an expert on these. I would like to contact her, actually. And so these were luxury items that came up from Mexico on the caravans. People with money wanted Manila silk shawls and other special things. The relicarios were prized family heirlooms. They were passed down through generations, especially among women, because they were so isolated here. And they were powerful amulets. The relicario was how you showed your loyalty to the Virgin or to Saint Joseph, to your personal guardian, or whatever saint you chose. The earliest and most precious versions bore painted images or ones that were carved in ivory, horn, mahogany, or other rare words. And this is really quite interesting. By the 1700s, the movement for independence in Mexico was growing. And as a part of it, there was a lot of anti-church sentiment. The relicarios went into grandmother's lock boxes and were forgotten about. All kinds of paintings show people wearing them, but the art historians skipped right past it. And this lady started looking and asking. And it wasn't easy, she says. She scoured Mexico to find pieces like this. And now look at the amazing collection she has. And so, I'm not paying you. Okay, so here we go. This is Latin American history, which is quite cool. Okay, the piece that I got came from Mexico City. Now we have another piece of the pie, or puzzle. As she renewed her research into relicarios, she slowly amassed pristine colonial examples from South America and Mexico, particularly in Mexico City, where mine came from, which she proclaims has the best flea market of anywhere. And it's really amazing. Okay, so the painting, we're starting to figure out what's behind the painting. And when I say what's behind the painting, a piece of the puzzle. So here we go. So St. Thomas of Villanova, I really believe that this is his relic. Okay, what I found was more interesting tidbits. Okay, Tomas, and look how it's spelled, just like on my relic. Tomas was a man of the mind who was comfortable with the power of his intellect. He was also gifted in the governance of men. His fellow Augustinians, by the way, he was a friar. Friars usually wear brown, like our little relic. Recognizing both his gifts and his holiness of life, soon chose him to be local superior or prior, and later regional superior or provincial. He was a skilled administrator, keeping careful watch over the spiritual and material affairs of the Augustinians in Spain. But he was also, now the picture's coming together now, he was also an innovator, concerned about the spiritual state of the people of the far reaches of the Spanish Empire. He promoted the organization of a missionary group of Augustinian friars to minister to the people in the New World. Very interesting. It was he who sent Augustinians to what is now modern Mexico, and from there, Peru and the Philippines. Aha! Okay, so more pieces of the puzzle coming together again. Now, this isn't identical to my piece, but similar in style and execution. Now, these used to come with double-sided paintings. And so this Relicarios is actually different than mine, but similar. So there's a double-sided painting, and this was actually like a print of the time. By the way, this is early 1700s. And it was hand colored, you can see right there. On the other side is a relic. Now, I believe mine was only a one-sided one, and the reason I believe that is because of this. Okay, because only one side of it comes off. So basically, one side comes off, and if it was a double-sided, both sides would open up. So this, on the back, this is just beautiful handwork, as you can see. This is hand-tooled. Let's go around the rim. You can see this all to be hand-tooled. And even, look at this, even this piece right here that looks like a pocket watch top, this is all hand-tooled work done by hand. Let's look at this, even going around the rim. And if you look on the side, you got this amazing, look at that, almost floral work going around it. And this is quite lovely. Now about the font that I told you about on the typewritten piece of paper. They actually were using that font up into sometime in the 1820s, and then other fonts became more popular. So this one does have a relic, and this was handwritten, but then again, it's very similar. This one being sold for $8.95. Don't know the value of mine, but this is actually 800 silver, and this one being in early 1700s. Now, I found more pieces of the puzzle. Mine is about 203 years old. So mine was actually the early 19th century. So I thought 1700s colonial, but now we have early 19th century colonial. So about 1820s. So somebody on a website actually was showing their two-sided Eglames Spanish colonial silver relicario, and what they wrote, we'll go back to that in a moment. By the way, they took it apart. This one very similar to mine. You can see the same flower or floral work on the side, the hand hammering and hand detailing with the pocket watch top on top. But this is a double-sided painting, and inside of it was a relic, and we do see print. Okay, we do see print like it was typed, which they didn't have the typewriter back then, but they had those letters that you struck and would put the ink on it. And this is about maybe 2.5, 3 inches. And there's a relic right here in the center that's with cloth with different saints' names going around it, which is quite interesting. This person actually found a letter tucked inside of it, which is even more amazing, and found this also tucked in there with a letter. Really cool. But we have like a date. So let's go ahead and check it out. I see the date 1827. So this definitely dates ours to around that time, because it is very, very, very similar to my piece. Okay, so as again, I'm looking at this, by the way, the paint is really, really worn on this. But if you look, it has like the same type of top. The edges going around it, very similar and almost identical to mine. Now here we have on this website called Collectors Weekly, where people talk about things that they find, especially antiques. And this person posed a question: large double-sided Eglamé's colonial Spanish reliquary. And you see, we saw the further pictures that they put on Flickr. And they write, I bought this today from a man who got it from an old man who owned him a favor. According to the guy I bought it from, the old man was a professional treasure hunter and a scientist, oceanographer. The letter is in Old Spanish. I am very fluent in Spanish, equal to my English, but I am having a difficult time deciphering the letters and the words in this. These two documents were inside the locket, along with another two, which I'll post photos of tomorrow, which we just saw. I'd appreciate any help. And so a lot of people replied. Someone saying it's definitely Spanish. And somebody wrote, I finally solved this mystery. This is an extra find and old, very large Spanish colonial reliquary. These were often carried by nuns and priests, but also some regular folks. I found lots of them online, but this one is the finest I could find amongst them, and the double-sided Eglamé's ones sell for around $500. They don't usually have so much stuff or relics in them. Now mine has a relic in it, but it doesn't have the paintings. So, it's a 50-50 wash there. In them, as this one does, I think I'm going to put it all back inside and seal it with wax. And then the person goes on to say, recently, a woman from Spain who studies old religious writing wrote to me after seeing my photos of this on Flickr. She said that it is an early 19th century piece which belonged to one of the original Spanish settlers of California or their grandson. And according to the writing, this is juicy, he was very ashamed because he got a girl pregnant out of wedlock. And the writing is very unusual, and that this reliquary is one of the most unique that she's seen. She said that the painting on it is very exquisite and one of the best, and she said that is a very valuable piece of early California history. Interesting. And then somebody was talking further and they said that it's worth more than the $500 as they're going back and forth. Definitely, more money. And I'm trying to find that message, but I can't find it right now. I'm a little blind. But now we put the pieces of the puzzle together, boys and girls. So here's ours, very similar in execution to the one that we saw, with the handwork detail all on it. Now, how did this come about? I don't understand, but I know that the Spaniards, especially the Catholic Spaniards, would wear giant silver pendants around their neck. Now, this would be like Flavor Flav's clock. I don't know if you're familiar with the rapper from the 80s, Flavor Flav, but it would be like his big giant clock. Now, let's go ahead and zoom in a little better now and look at the weave on this piece. That is a very, very old piece of cloth, as you can see. And even this cloth surrounding it is very, very old. We do know that the typeset was up until the 1820s. And the other one dated 1827. So I'm going to guesstimate this is made between 1810 and 1830. Very interesting. Let's get in there. I assumed it was from the 1700s, but as we put the pieces of the puzzle together, we become more and more knowledgeable about what we have here. Let's try to get a tight zoom. Look at that. That is something else. This is the fabric of Santo Tomas Villanova, and I can't believe I scored something this. To me, this is precious. It's not even about the value. It's actually priceless when it comes to value. And priceless, I'm not saying that I can sell this for $10 million. Priceless when I mean to sentimental value. That probably a nun or a priest trying to preach to the Aztecian or the indigenous people of Mexico probably wore this around, and there was probably some kind of church that they began in Mexico, and they were missionaries, most likely. Spanish missionaries trying to teach the faith to the indigenous peoples of Mexico. So again, let's try to get a tight zoom and check out that piece of fabric, and you can see that is really, really old and handmade. So this is not, definitely in my opinion, is not a replica or a fake. This is of the period. this silver piece going around it. But this relic right here would have been from the 1600s, I believe. Was it 1555 that he died in? But right around there, the Middle Ages. Okay, I interrupted the video. I had to, because it bothers me when I don't know something, exactly. He did die in 1855. Here's a picture of him wearing his brown cloak that he actually kept mending and mending and mending because he did not feel like getting a new one because he rather spend his money on the poor. Really interesting. So, wow. Just totally wow. Let's keep going. I split the video and we're going to go back to what I was previously saying. And it's not unusual that this piece of cloth of the saint sat around somewhere in some kind of Spanish church or monastery, and they took the piece of the cloth from the saint, cut it into a little square, and placed it into this devotional. Really, really quite interesting. If you look again at the fabric around it, look how old that fabric is. That, again, is showing us the age of this piece. And again, there we go. There's our piece of fabric. I'm going to try to zoom back out and get in there to show you guys. There we go. Look at that. Really, really something amazing. You can even see this piece of paper is extremely, extremely old. Thanks for watching. Thank you for coming along on my journey of trying to figure out what the heck we have here. Now we know this is still colonial, Spanish colonial, even though it was the early 19th century. And value, don't know. I'm going to guess a minimum of 500 and a maximum of probably 1,500 to 2,000.